that has to do with today's date in Jewish history. Today, Yud Gimel Elul, is the date of the previous Rebbe's Chasana in Taf Reish Nun Zayin. That was 1897, was the Friedrich Rebbe's wedding on this date, the 13th of Elul. And the Rebbe Rashab, his father, at the wedding at Sheva Bracha, said a series of Maamarim that began with the bracha that we recite in the Sheva Brachas, called Samach, Tesamach, Reim HaHuvim. And the Rebbe Rashab said, like I said, a Maamar all about the topic of Samach, Tesamach, Reim HaHuvim. And the Rebbe also elaborates on this Maamar. This Maamar is relatively long for our Shiur, so I was thinking about dividing it in two. Part of it we're going to learn today. The second part, which is more about Simcha, we're going to learn by our Wednesday Shiur, which is about Simcha. But we'll be talking about Simcha also today as well. The Siyata D'Shmaya, Shabbos Parshas Teitza, Yud Gimel Ol Tov Mem Aleph, Shabbos Parshas Teitza, the 13th of Elul in 1981, the Rebbe recited this Maamar, and then afterwards he was Magia it. He gave it out for reworked, redone, and reviewed in Tafshin Mem Zayin, which is 100 years after the wedding, 90 years after the wedding, which was 1987. Okay, let's begin with the Maamar. Samach, Tesamach, Reim HaHuvim, we say in the Sheva Brachas, we say, rejoice, make rejoice the beloved friends, Kisamechacha Yitzircha Began Eden Mekedem. Like the one who formed you rejoiced and made you rejoice in Gan Eden early on. In other words, we're telling the Chassan and Kala, just like when Hashem created Adam and Chava, and He married them under a chuppah, like the Gemara explains. So the same thing, and He made them happy, and He made them rejoice. The same thing, you as well, the new couple over here, should also rejoice, just like then Hashem made rejoice. He should make you rejoice as well. And it's explained in this Maamar by the very same title that was recited during the wedding of my father-in-law, which took place on Friday, the 13th of Elul of 1897. It was customary, especially in the olden times, it was customary to have a wedding on Friday afternoon, and then the Friday night meal was the wedding meal. That's when the whole town got together and so on. So he says, the Reim HaHuvim Hem Bechinas Chachma Ubina. According to Kabbalah, according to Chassidus, the beloved friends, what spiritual levels does that refer to? It refers to the level of the two spheres, Chachma and Bina together. Shenikraim Terein Rein Deloin Misparshin. In the Zohar, they are called two friends that do not separate, because Chachma and Bina work together constantly. Chachma is the point of the idea. Chachma is the nekuda, and Bina is the elaboration of it. So these are two things that are always joined. The Chachma leads to Bina, and the Bina needs the Chachma. So they are like two friends that are not separated. There's the level of Ze'er Anpin and Nukva, the Midas and Malchus. Chassidus says those can be separated sometimes. Those are like not a level of friends, but those are beloveds that there's times of separation between the Chasna and Kala, for example. Before they're married, they're separated and so on. V'habakosha, but when we talk about spiritually, the Reim HaHuvim, the beloved friends, are referring to Chachma Bina. So what's the request? Make rejoice. We're asking Hashem to make happy the beloved friends. So just like in the simple sense, we're asking Hashem to make happy the Chasna and Kala. What's it spiritually meaning behind it? Third line from the beginning. Samach, Tesamach, the request, make happy the beloved friends, which we said that is referring to that's the level of Chachma and Bina. He should tumshach simcha b'chachma bina. That we are asking Hashem that the level of joy and happiness and rejoicing should be drawn down into Chachma Bina. So the Rebbe is going to ask a very simple question. Why is there a need to bring down joy into Chachma Bina? Do they not have joy or whatever is necessary without Hashem bringing joy into them? So that's the question. We need to understand. Bina, he mekayim hasimcha. Bina is the level, the area where simcha is located, where joy is located. Like it says, Aim habanim smecha, the mother of the children is rejoicing. So what does that have to do with Bina? V'yaduan, it's known, the Aim habanim, when it talks about the mother of the children, koyal Bina, it's referring to the sphira of Bina, shehi ha'aim hamiledes hamidas, that Bina is the mother that gives birth to the emotions. So therefore, since the mother already has simcha, Bina already has simcha, as the pasuk says that Bina is called the mother, it gives birth to the children, it's already joyful. Why do we ask by Hashem, Samach Tesamach, you need to bring joy to Bina? Isn't Bina already have joy in and of itself? Now, the Rebbe is going to explain not just that the Torah says, Eima Banim Smecha, that the mother of the children is happy, Bina is happy, but the Rebbe is also going to explain the logic. Why is Bina a state of happiness? Like we also see with our senses, when a person comprehends in his mind, with his intellect, a particular idea, he has a joy out of it. So therefore, Bina, by its very nature, is a joyous thing. How about Chachma? Chachma is the flash of insight. Now, the Chachma, which is the initial spark of an idea, since the idea is not yet fully developed, he doesn't have a full grasp of that, that's not a place of joy like Bina is. Also in Chachma, that Simcha does not apply by Chachma. Why is Simcha not applied by Chachma? Ki Simcha mitzada gilui dafke. Because joy has to do specifically with revelation. When is there joy? When is there happiness? Not from something that maybe that's concealed. It needs to be open and evident. That is what joy is about. And it's really, it works both ways. Joy brings things out, and when things are brought out, that brings to joy. The Chachma k'mei baraka mavrik, and Chachma, which is like the flash of an insight, the initial point of an idea that flashes into a person's mind, it's beyond revelation. So therefore, as far as Chachma is concerned, we would say there's no joy over there. Maybe that's why we need to ask Hashem to bring joy to the beloved friends, because Chachma doesn't have joy. But still in all, Chachma has something even greater than joy, and seemingly there's no need for joy since it has something greater. Chassidus, it's brought down that in Chachma it shines the revelation of delight, pleasure. Pleasure is a higher level than joy, and that shines in the sphera of Chachma. That K'moi Tzav Upanav Shel Rabavo, it says that Rabavo's face shone, Shematza Tesefta Chadata, because he found a new teaching of the Mishnah, of the authors of the Mishnah. The tzihivas upon him, the shining of the face, from Megillah Einig, it's from the revelation of the light. So we see anytime when we get a new insight, a new revelation, even if we don't have a complete comprehension, but the very newness of it brings us to the light. Therefore, via dua, the Einig ulamayla mesimcha, the light, enjoyment, pleasure is beyond joy. Therefore, Bina has already joy. Chachma, which is the other half of the equation, the other half of the two friends, Chachma has the light, which is even higher than joy. It has einig, it has pleasure. So therefore, Umahi abakosha Samach Tesamach Mahuvim, what is the spiritual meaning of the request that we say by a wedding? Make rejoice the beloved friends, which means bring joy to Chachma Bina. Me'achar shebalav ochi yesh simcha v'bina, since even without the level of joy being brought to them, there is already joy innately in Bina, like we said, Ema Bonim Smecha. How much more so does Chachma not need to be brought to joy, because it has delight and pleasure, which is even higher than joy? That's one question that Rebbe asks. And also we need to understand who is this pasuk talking about? When we're davening by the Sheva Brachas, we're davening about the Chasna and Kala, and we're asking Hashem, make rejoice these beloved friends. It's referring to the Chasna and Kala. Chasna and Kala, according to Chassidus, according to Kabbalah, is always referring to V'yedua the Chasna Kala heim zun, zav v'nukva, zeir ampin and malchus. It's referring to the 6 emotional attributes and malchus. So therefore the Rebbe wants to know, is Re'im ha'ahuvim referring to Chachma Bina, like the Maamar originally brings from the Rebbe Rashab, or is it referring to the Chasna and Kala? Chasna and Kala is the union of Midas and Malchus. In other words, the entire set of spheres are about unions, about marriages, about matings. But there's a mating of Chachma Bina, and there's a mating of the Midos of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, the emotional attributes with Malchus. The beginning of the Maamar we brought from the Rebbe Rashab, that the Re'im ha'ahuvim is talking about the mating and union of Chachma Bina, and that needs joy brought down into it, further joy. And in the simple sense, according to Kabbalah, Chasna and Kala, a groom and a bride, that is the level of Zah and Malchus. So how do these two things fit together? So he says, the second line from the end of the paragraph, Ma'wa kesher pirush, that what's the connection of this explanation? That the beloved friends is referring to the Chasna and Kala, which by extension refer to the spheres of the 6 Midas and Malchus. In Pirush Anal, with the above mentioned explanation that the Rebbe Rashab said by his son's wedding, the Re'im ha'ahuvim and Chachma Bina, that the beloved friends is referring to Chachma Bina. It's very technical, but after the first 2 paragraphs, we're going to get a more practical, more down to earth about joy and so on. Oizbeis. Yeshleimar, we could say the Yuvan Zeh, that this will be understood. Hakesher, the Pshnei Pirushim, the connection between the 2 explanations, whether Re'im ha'ahuvim is going on the spheres of Chachma Bina, and that's what we need to bring joy to, or whether Re'im ha'ahuvim is going on the Chasna and Kala, and Chasna and Kala correspond to the lower spheres of the 6 Midos and Malchus. Al pi ma shekasa b'sefer Emes LeYaakov, according to what it's brought down in a sefer called Emes LeYaakov. Uva b'Maamar Anal, also brought down in the above mentioned Maamar that the Rebbe Rashab said on his son's wedding on this date, the ahuvim b'gematria doidim. The word ahuvim is the numerical equivalent of the word doidim, which means the beloveds, like Anila Doidi v'Doidi Li. And we know, just like Re'im goes on the level of Chochma Bina, in a similar vein, when the Psukim refer to Doidim, beloveds, meaning Chosn and Kala, Veheim Ze'er Anpin v'Nukva. It's referring to the Midos and Malchus. So we see that the phrase Re'im Ahuvim includes in it already both. Because Ahuvim is already the numerical equivalent of Doidim, which is the Midos and Malchus. Ukiyadua, as it's known, this is what I said just before, that the level of Re'im that goes on Chochma Bina, v'Doidim hem Zav and Nukva, and Doidim, beloveds, are the Midas and Malchus. So, what does it mean when we combine these two things together? We say in the bracha, we say Samach Tesamach Re'im ha'ahuvim Uma shekosav Re'im ha'ahuvim. The fact that it says the beloved friends, the Tevas Ahuvim, He behem shel v'toyer shel Re'im shekoi kanal chochma bina, that the words beloved is a continuation and a description of the friends that's referring to before Chochma Bina. When you read the expression, you say Re'im Ha'ahuvim. So there are friends, and we are describing what type of friends are they. They are beloved friends. So when you say beloved on the Re'im, and Re'im is Chochma Bina, and this beloved is the Midos and Malchus, so what's the connection? How do you bring the description of Ahuvim to the Re'im, which is Chochma Bina? How do you bring the Midos to be connected with Chochma Bina? So the Rebbe says, second line from the top, Yesh Levayir b'shnei efanim, we can explain it in two ways. Aleph, one way to explain this, al pi hayidu, according to what's known. Ba'oifen leides hamidos zav nukva ma'amoichin chochma bina, in the manner how the emotions are born from the intellect, which, if you remember, we spoke about earlier, Eim habonim smecha. We said that Bina is called the mother because she gives birth to the emotions. This is beginning of Tanya. He already talks about it. Chacham is the father, Bina is the mother, because they give birth to the emotions. So there's a certain step-by-step process. Just like a child doesn't all of a sudden appear from their parents, there's also a step-by-step process. The mother becomes pregnant, and she carries the child within her for 9 months. Then it finally is given birth. The same thing, the midos are first, if you will, carried within the intellect, just like the child is within the mother. First of all, initially, the emotions are part of the intellect. And afterwards they come out in a revealed way. What this means is as follows. Intellect can be completely theoretical. You hear an idea or you study a topic, and there's no thought of emotions or any type of concept of what type of bearing this has to do with real life. For example, you study some properties of a newly discovered microbe or whatever. Then all of a sudden you think into it and you see these are beneficial properties, or they're dangerous properties, or they're a combination, or they're neutral. When the mind starts registering within it the attractiveness, if you will, of this microbe's positive properties, or the repellent nature of the negative aspects of this, let's say, microbe, so then this will eventually give forth to an actual emotion. And let's say if he comes to the conclusion that this particular microscopic entity is dangerous, he will become fearful. The other way around, if he will see its benefits, I've just now seen a cure for a terrible disease, so he will fall in love with it. But between the intellectual, dry, theoretical understanding and the actual emotion, there is a middle ground of where the emotions is still within the intellect, and the intellect is either attracted to or repelled by this intellectually. So that is the stages of intellect to emotion, that there's the emotions the way it's still part of the intellect. Based on this, we're going to explain how do we have Re'im and Ahuvim together. We said that Re'im is going on Chochmah and Bina, the level of intellect. Ahuvim is gematria of beloveds going on Za and Malchus, referring to the Midas. How do you put them together? Re'im Ahuvim. So he says in the fourth line from the top, according to what we just now said, we could say the Re'im Ahuvim koi alzun Ahuvim k'moishem klulim b'chochma bin Re'im, that the beloved friends is referring to the Midas, which is the Ahuvim ones, as they are part of Chochmah Bina, which is the level of Re'im, friends. Masha enkin Ahuvim stam koi al ze'erampin v'nukva. When it's just Ahuvim, it doesn't say Re'im Ahuvim, it just says Ahuvim. That's only the Midas. The way they're come down in a revealed way. Ahuvim begematria doidim. Ahuvim is the numerical equivalent of beloveds. And now he's going to explain another idea. Gematria is always, and like the Alter Rebbe says this in Shari Yichud V'Emunah, Gematria does not mean that the two things that have the same Gematria are equal to each other. But Gematria is a decreasing of something from its original level to be Gematriaized into a different level. Let's see this inside. Pisa Yuvan Gamze in the Zun Doidim. Merum is Bagematria Dahuvim Ahuvim Gematria Doidim. According to this will be understood the fact that the Midas, which are the beloved ones, is hinted in the Gematria of beloved. That's why beloved is the Gematria of the word Doidim. The Gematria Moira al Miut Ha'or V'Achayis Miut Achar Miut. When you have something that's the numerical equivalent of something, that indicates that it's a decrease of the life and vitality that was in the original word to make it into a different word via gematria. It's one decrease after another. It's a great lessening of the light and the vitality. The same thing over here. Gematria is very important because it shows on a lessening. Let's see it inside. To draw down from the emotions the way they are still within the world of intellect, and they're still intellect. And that's where they're called the Re'im Ha'ahuvim. That's where we have the bracha to put them both together. To bring them down to the emotions in the heart, where over there, Ahuvim is the Gematria Doidim, Ahuvim is the numerical equivalent of Doidim. Hi'aidekama Tzimtzumim is through many constrictions that it has to go through to be able to get that far. And the Rebbe in the footnote points out, this is something that Chassidus calls the Meitzar HaGoren, the constriction of the throat. Just like the head, which is the place of the intellect, sits on top of the body, which is the place of the heart, the seat of the emotions. But between the head and the heart, there is the throat and the neck, which is narrower than either of them. That narrowness of the throat between the head and the body and the heart indicates that to travel from the intellect to the emotions, it needs to go through a constriction. In a similar vein, ahuvim has the numerical equivalent of doidim, meaning beloved, to show us and to indicate that this is something that needs the constriction to be able to go from the emotions the way they are part of the intellect to emotions as a separate entity in the heart. That is one way how to explain the connection between Reim and Ahuvim that we say in the bracha by Sheva brachas. Samach, Tesamach, Reim, Ahuvim, that we're asking Hashem to make rejoice the beloved friends. And friends, we said, goes on Chochmah and Bina. Ahuvim is the numerical equivalent of Doidim, beloveds, which is going on Zer, Anpin, and Malchus. So therefore, what's the connection between these two things? So we just now explained, we're talking about the midos, the way they are in Chochmah Ubina. That's one way of explaining the phrase Reim Ahuvim. We're talking about the midos in the seichel before they come out to be full-blown midos of the heart. Another way of explaining this phrase Reim Ahuvim, Ubeis, so he says, the Mekiven Sham Midos Heim Toildus HaMoichin, since the emotions are children, an offspring, and a result of the intellect, the Chochmah Bina Heim Aveim. Again, the beginning of Tanya we have this, that Chochmah Bina are like father and mother. V'zav v'nukva heim ben ubas. Specifically, the 6 midos is likened to a son, and Malchus is likened to daughter. Like it's brought down in Kabbalah, Sha'av ve'em hem yudke, which is Chochmah Bina. Father and mother correspond to the first 2 letters of Shem Yudke Vavke, which they in turn correspond to the 2 spheres of Chochmah Bina. Uben ubas, son and daughter, hem Vavke, are the 2 final letters of Hashem's ineffable name, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, that the Vav is the level of son, and that last Hey is the letter of the level of daughter, which is Za and Nukve. It's the level of the 6 midas, and Malchus are the son and daughter, are the Vav and the Hey of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. So now, the children are similar to their parents. So what we have over here is, we have father and mother. Now the father and mother gave birth to a son and daughter. Intellect brought about the emotions. So therefore, heim is damim la'amoichin. Children take after their parents. The emotions are similar to the intellect. Gam la'achrei shenimshchu v'nizgalu. Even after the emotions were drawn out, and even after the emotions were revealed, even after they became totally emotions in the heart, they left the brain entirely. They've traveled down all the way into the heart, and they're full-blown emotions. The emotions are likened to the intellect. In a simple sense, this means that based on the understanding, based on what my intellect meditated upon and contemplated upon, that's the type of emotion that's going to be born. The emotion relates to and follows whatever the ideas were that are supposed to evoke the emotion. If a person was thinking about how great Hashem is and how much kindness He did to us, so the emotion will follow that and will have a love for Hashem, etc. And in a simple sense, when we're dealing with the relationship between children and parents, so the Rebbe says, a father gives over certain traits and characteristics to his son. In other words, again, the relationship between the child and parent, he's trying to bring from Maamar Chazal. To such a degree that someone that inherits something is similar, and not just similar, but stands fully in the place of the one that gave him the inheritance. So, for example, when a parent passes away, the child completely fills the space and takes the place of the parent that passed away. It's a whole halachic difference. It's not that, let's say, the estate travels from person A, the parent, to person B, the child. No. It's considered that the child is now in the same place as the parent. And because they're in the same place as the parent, so then all the parent's possessions are now belonging to the child. So just like it's such a relationship between the son and the father, or the son and the parents, in a similar vein, it's concerning a daughter when she inherits, in a situation where there's no son. So the point that he's trying to say over here is that the children, the son and the daughter, take the place, are similar to, are very closely connected with the father and mother. Now the Rebbe in the brackets, 4 lines from the end of this paragraph, is going to explain that there is an even greater relationship between the son and the father versus the daughter and the mother. And more specifically, the son is in the place of the father, the daughter takes the place of the mother. Like it says, ki ima kibita, like mother is her daughter. So, therefore, coming back to our original question, if Re'im, we said, goes on Chachma Bina, Ahuvim, we said, is the gematria of Doidim, which refers to the Midos and Malchus. Based on what we just now said, that Midos are very closely related to Chachma Bina, just like a son and daughter is very closely related to their father and mother. So it's understood how Re'im and Ahuvim come together. Now, according to this, we could say, even after they were drawn down and they became revealed, they are still called beloved friends. Hold on. Friends is referring to Chachma Bina. Beloved is already the way they're midas. Why, when the midas were revealed, are they called friends, which was on Chachma Bina? Okay, now, like we said before, the Re'im Ahuvim bepashtus koyal chasen v'kala zun shebegilui, like we said earlier, that the beloved friends, in the simple meaning of the bracha, when we're wishing the chasen and kala, we're telling them that Hashem should make you rejoice. And chasen and kala is referring to the midas. We're still connecting them with Re'im. Why are we connecting them with Re'im, with Chachma Bina, Mikiv and Shagam Oz? Because since also then, even after the midas are drawn down and revealed, even after the midas are completely independent from the intellect, hein doimim lechachma bina, they are similar to chachma bina. Ois Gimel, small paragraph. And this is going to connect it back to our earlier question that we had. If chachma bina, which is the level of rei, are the level of delight, which is higher than joy, like we said, that's the level of chachma. And bin is the level of joy, like it says, Ema bonim smecha. So why do we wish chachma bina in the spiritual realms, samach to samach, that Hashem should add to you joy? Based on this, we're going to be able to explain it. Ois Gimel. We can add that the connection between the two explanations in beloved friends, the that the main explanation is that the beloved friends is referring to Chachma Bina, like it's explained at length in the Maamar that Rebbe Rashab said at his son's wedding. But there's another explanation that's also going on the Midas and Malchus, who gam be'inyan Samach Tesamach. The two explanations of Reim and Ahuvim can be talking about also on the rejoicing aspect, that we're asking Hashem to make them rejoice. The fact that we are davening to Hashem by the Sheva Brachas, and we're saying that we're asking that joy should come down in Chachma Bina, which, like we said, is the primary explanation of Reim Ahuvim. Though even without Hashem bringing Simcha down to them, they still have delight, because that's what Chachma is about, and they still have joy, because that's what Bina is about. So what is the request? What are we asking for a request for? What we are asking from Hashem to make them rejoice is they should have a greater joy than the joy that they have on their own, like we'll explain further on at length. And perhaps we can bring an example from the wedding. It says, there's a mitzvah to be misameach chassan v'kala. There's a mitzvah to make chassan and kala rejoice. Aren't they happy anyway? Most chassan and kalas that I've seen, if not all of them, are very happy. Why is there a mitzvah to make them rejoice? Because even though they are happy on their own, there's a mitzvah for us to add to their joy, which reflects something that goes on in the spiritual realms. Everything down here in the physical realm is an expression that corresponds to the spiritual realms. That we're asking Hashem, that Hashem should infuse Chachma Bina with joy, even though Chachma Bina on their own already have their joy and delight. As we will explain later on, the difference between their joy that they have on their own versus the joy that Hashem adds to them. Now, why is there a need for it? Not just what, but why? The reason why it's necessary to bring about a greater joy in Chachma Bina. What's wrong if they just keep to the joy that they have on their own? Because that greater joy that takes place by Chachma Bina, which, just like in the simple sense, the purpose of father and mother is to have children, the same thing, the goal of Chachma Bina is to give birth to the Midas, that the Midas should become revealed. That extra joy pushes forth the revelation of the Midas. Through that should be the revelation in the Midas and Malchus Pirish Hasheni Bereim Ahuvim. The second explanation in the beloved friends, that we said one explanation of beloved friends, it's talking about the emotions the way they're part of the intellect, and the second explanation is the way the emotions are already a separate thing from the intellect, but they're only similar to it. The reason why we need to bring joy to Chachma Bina is to cause the revelation. And this is something that the Rebbe always talks about. We're going to mention also here in this Maamar, that the reason for the reason for the joy by a wedding is because a wedding needs to have the drawing down of the power of Hashem's infinite power. And that is necessary to be able to make children, which is an expression of Hashem's infinitude, because the power of procreation is infinity, the way it's in our world, because the capabilities to procreate is an ongoing thing. And to do so, to draw down the infinite, for that it's necessary the idea of simcha. Simcha is the vehicle and the means to draw down the infinite, because it taps into that higher level. But it's not the innate, natural simcha of Chachma Bina, but it's a special, essential simcha, as we will speak about, that is higher than the normal simcha, and that is what's necessary to be able to bring about both the birth in the spiritual realms of the emotions from intellect, and as well in a wedding down here, that it should bring about the union of the chassan and kala to cause and bring forth the idea of physical birth as well.